personal view on that. So let me introduce myself for a little bit. So my name is Nikolai Rosnachenko, and during the half of the past year and my preliminary studies as well were devoted to the analysis of the large documents, which involve the sentiment analysis, text summarization, and now I'm switching to the chatbot developments. So in all the while, the fact that the importance of the large document processing makes me involved in staying interested in all of the related advances. And within this talk, I would like to share the details of the another skimming of the paper, which is called Encoding long and structured inputs in transformers. At this point, let me start from the certain introduction about the transformers. Before the actual 2014, we experienced with such architecture as encoder-decoder, which has huge application in such problems as the machine translation. And the main component of the encoder part and decoder part was the RNN models, such as LSTM, that allows to handle large input sequences. But the main problem was that the actual component which combines the decoder and encoder and decoder has like a large amount of information. It's actually very small and supposed to consider a lot of information that was in an encoder part in order to decode it. So there's the actual case in 2014 where we first time experienced with the attention mechanism, which was later on enhanced with another very fascinating paper, which is called Attention is All You Need. This also makes importance of the further advances with the long sequences, because one of the major limitation of the proposed self-attention in that paper is that we're struggling with the computation complexity, which depends on the size of the input in a square manner. And to address this problem, so recently there was a certain approach that lead to the sparse representation of the attention. So within such models that appears alongside with the findings of this paper, these are the models as reformer and longformer. So another way of the reduction complexity and the establishment connection of the tokens with the whole sequence is a global attention. The third component is the structurization, is the actual contribution of this paper. And about all of these aspects, we have a look within this presentation during the next slides. So let's start with the actual sparse attention and the actual way how we can come and reduce the original attention self-attention mechanism that we have. Is that we're starting from the actual different position encoding. So the technique of the position encoding is become well known even before the transformers. It allows us to consider the embedding for every input token, and therefore establish the connection between different input terms in terms of the distance and position and context. But in case of the BERT, this is a absolute position-based encoding. So it means that for every input token, we have a vector which provides the certain information about its position. And ETC model at this point is actually focused on the enhancements of the encoder part of the transformers, which is very related to the BERT. And at this point, in order to make the attention sparser, I proposed, as to say, a relative position encoding. So what it means that we are now experiencing with a certain graph. So for every token in the sequence, we have connections with the other tokens of the whole sequence. And these connections are now become the certain vectors of our positioning. And in order to, since our input sequence might be quite large, so these connections are also reduced and reduced by the certain radius. So it means that we consider the certain amount of tokens before and after a particular one. Like as a result, we have certain metrics where we have connections within a certain radius per every token. These connections described as vectors. So how it now allows us to switch to the sparse attention, and what was the one of the major contribution of this paper, we will see on this slide. So first of all, it's need to say that on the figure, on the central figure, you could see there are three different stages of how attention mechanism changed. So the very left one, which is A, corresponds to the original attention proposed in the self-attention paper and utilized in BERT. So it means that we have all the input tokens connected with all other input tokens. In order to reduce these connections, so the first, what was proposed in the paper is that we have two different inputs. So the first input corresponds to the same actual input as in case of the BERT, but it's actually reduced to the size of the like a window. And the second input is the tokens, corresponds to the, as to say, global representation. And considering the relative position encoding this way of the position representation allows us to finally sparse the matrix with this window of attention and to receive the representation, as we can see on the figure C, the most right one. This what actually makes us and gives us improvement in the way that we now are not struggling with the square computation complexity. The whole formula of the attention computation represented below on this slide, where in the red square I just mentioned the representation of the position. What else has been modified in comparison with the original self-attention is the masking mechanism, which is highlighted in a green box. And masking actually becomes like another point of the contribution of this paper. So what it actually allows us, in addition, it allows us to perform the structurization of the input information. So on this slide, you can see exactly the same picture that we seen on the prior one, but is colorized. So the main idea is that we can consider not just a connection, but we can label the connections and let's say emphasize that we connect, let's say, with a part of something, like a part of what, or it could be like a connection with a different word of the given token. So all of this emphasized by colors. The next step which is like illustrated on the right figure, is the way how we can also adopt a structurization. We can, and authors propose the additional token, which is called sentence break. That actually allows us an effect on the masking matrices in a way that the attention works within a sentence. And also in terms of from the attention that comes from the global tokens to the local tokens, we consider only like information that is within the window. So like all of that is related to the structurization, and the actual masking and the structurization is performed during the pre-training process. So I'm analyzing the results. I decided not to put all the details of the tables that were mentioned in the paper. So there were.
Nikolai, sorry to interrupt. Before we move on to here,
yeah,
a quick question.
Yeah. So on the slide just before this one,
yep,
the connection types like part of, is a, etc. Do they give any examples of how they actually use that? For instance, are they encoded in the global input, or are they more like these special tokens like the sunset one?
No, it's not a special tokens. It's certain. So to my best understanding of this paper is they provide just like an example of what is supposed to be used for these connections, where like a part of means that, let's say, since the input represents not just sequence of words but sequence of tokens, and the latter means that we can like some words could be and actually presented as the parts. And connection of these parts could be emphasized with the additional like labels, which here illustrated as colors. So this like for what I could get from the paper and how they adopt it in their further model application.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Move on to the results part. Maybe to make sure I'm following correctly. So they propose limiting the size of attention to a small sliding window, and this helps more efficient.
Yeah, in old wall. So we have two different inputs. So the large matrix with the diagonal elements is the actual large input that we like experience with in case of the BERT models, in case of other models. So this is just like a actual input in our model, and yeah. So for every token, we consider connections not with the wall tokens, but in the specific tokens. Amount of tokens before and after it. So that actually occurs in a predefinite radius. And combining it with the relative token position embedding allows us to like sparse this representation, which were shown on the prior slide, where sparse means that we could squeeze the matrix, which is illustrated on the figure B, to the like a shorter one, which is illustrated in the figure C. And like in all the wall, it allows us to remove the square dependency from the size of the input. And this is how is after that possible to consider longer input sequences rather than we have for the BERT model, which is limited by 512 tokens in all.
And then the size of the window is like some sort of hyperparameter.
It's actually like a certain parameter, which is like outdoors experiment with a size of 90 or 128. So like at that point, this was kind of information I did not include the slides, but and it's also like a part of the experiments is that the higher amount is actually like they experiment with, I don't remember, like maybe with 2 or 3 different sizes. So they at this point they emphasize that it's like very crucial to consider like high values because so that allows to exceed the results that we have with the BERT. So yeah, like in all the wall, it's the hyperparameter input. So I can I go to the results section? Yes. Yeah. So as for results, I just want to emphasize the most significant like improvements that I've seen while analyze the results on the NQ dataset. So this is the like dataset in the question answering domain. Like among all of the others dataset that they experiment with this model. So the first step of the improvement was once the input size was increased from 512 tokens, which is the size of the BERT input, towards the 4K in case of ETC model. So the next step of the improvement is increasing the size of the radius, and the last significant step of the improvements was to switch the original model size from the base to the large one, and provide the as to say weightlifting from the BERT-based models. So the idea is that since these attention mechanism updates represents our minor changes in the original attention of the BERT and Roberta-based models, the latter allows us to adopt the matrices that were used of this attention mechanisms for the initial like a pre-training process. And this also represents a certain contribution of this paper. And with this slide, I would like to provide the like a personal experience once I was focused on the text summarization problem. So during that time, I've summarized the information of the papers that were related to the large input processing for the text summarization. So as authors of the ETC paper mentioned that during their studies, there were also proposed such models as the LED or longformer and the Big BERT. So all of these were invented more or less at the same time, but each of them, in terms of the findings, propose like a certain different experience, such as ETC focused on the structured input. That was their main contribution. For example, Big BERT, they did not experiment with the global attention, the combination of the sparse attention with the global attention, but instead they adopt the random attention application to prove that it's the Turing complete this approach represents the Turing complete mechanism for the model application. And what else I can say from this graph is that such models as ETC effects on the further studies with the appearance of the long T5 model. So the most affection was on the long T5 model. And also on this graph with the yellow colors emphasize the models with the sparse attention. So it means that they could treat the long input sequences, while the one which is colored in gray corresponds to the original self attention. So it means that these models are limited by input size, and if we would like to increase the input size, it affects on the significant amount of extra computations for pre-training and fine-tuning. And to conclude the personal findings from this paper, this was one of the first like a paper when authors proposed the sparse attention mechanism alongside with the another papers which proposed the models such as BERT and log4mer, because these are also models that involve this mechanism, but with the a bit another different techniques and applications, implementations. So another contribution is the structuring input by adopting the matrices, Boolean matrices during the pre-training stage. And the last one is that since the attention modification represents effects on the encoding part, it means that authors experiment with and conclude that using the pre-trained models such as BERT and Roberta for the pre-training stage allows to also gain the results in a variety of tasks. So this is pretty much how it. Thanks for listening. So I do believe I can answer the other questions if you have.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, no.
Any questions? Or comments? Were you able to hear that?
More or less. So as I understand, so the connection, so the reason is why we need the global attention, right? So why we don't need to only focus on the local attention, or? Yeah, right. So like once was saying about the sparse attention, I don't know whether could you see my cursor, or I can emphasize, yeah, also I think while using the pen. Yeah, once we're talking about the sparse attention, so we only considering the input of our long sequence. So the sparse attention is actually focused only on this part. So it means that we are at every token of our sequence attend only to the neighbor elements within the specific radius. So that's the whole idea of the sparse attention within this paper. So it's like a radius-based self-attention.
some like limitations of this sparse attention? Like, does it end?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So if we consider only the just just sparse attention without like this mechanism, which could be like removed without the global one. So the main limitation is that we consider only local information that falls in a radius we set up as a hyperparameter during the training. And this is where actually the global attention comes, is that it allows us to address the problem of the lack of this connection with other elements. This connection could be established with a global attention.
What about the informants? How the is the problem they're addressing in this mechanism?
Sorry, I missed a little bit the very beginning of the question.
What is the relation of? I saw your very nice diagram. What will be kind of relation of linformer in this? Will it kind of address any deficiencies of this as a totally different architecture mechanism?
Yeah. So the question is like, what's the actual difference between like a long former and other papers, right?
No, not long former, linformer. That's a new one. I went to visit here, not really in 2020. So it's linear complexity. So that's another model that I know for modeling of sequences, and you did not mention it. So I thought maybe you can a bit clarify its position here, or maybe I'm missing something somewhere. Maybe it is somewhere there.
Well, that's actually the case I've, to believe, experienced for the first time with the linformer. So, I mean, I would definitely address and contribute with the personal knowledge about that, but it seems that I'm never heard about it. So yeah, it seems that like in this graph it's missed, and I've never examined the paper before. If you could share the paper, I can have a look. So.
Yeah, I think I'm ascending that.
Maybe next week we'll have one more session on.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Reformers have you looked into reform? Because that should be also, or am I missing something in the memory? Reformers, they should also address the same problem, right?
Yeah, since they appear like more or less in the same time, so all of these models, they address to this problem is how to remove this dependency. Yeah. But to my best of knowledge, so the ways of how it was it addressed, they may definitely like vary. But in all the world, so the main problem is to reduce this computation complexity.
Reformer is
yeah, but to the best of my knowledge, so this paper is also very contribute with the like actual global attention appearance. So at this point, I'm not sure whether like something was already mentioned in the reformer or longformer. But like in terms of this paper, like global attention and structurization are two main contributions that we can get of this paper and found its application in further models. such as long T5 that was mentioned here.
There is also sparse chemistry now, all the sparse functions.
Yeah, if they could be, but I do believe that it might be just sparse with the problem of how to establish the connection of the distant tokens, because they are very likely be window based, as the one proposed in this paper, ETC. So sparsing based on windows on the sliding window.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the project.